Good evening and welcome to the Crestville City Council meeting, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. 2022. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome all of you to our meeting this evening, and we're going to begin tonight with the interview of an applicant for the Planning Commission. So I would like to welcome Mr. Richard Zettervall to, if you would come up to the podium there. Now, one of the guidelines here is that masks are required inside, but if you're speaking directly towards us, you may remove it while you're speaking.
Just go and leave it on if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Hello, Richard. It's good to see you again.
How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome, council. Thank you very much.
So we have 4 questions, and I believe the council members all have the questions. Is that right? So I would like to start on this and then have Alonzo, if you'd ask the first question.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Zettervall, why do you want to become a member of this commission or committee?
Well, I'm gonna go off the script. You have the copies of my answers before you on probably the same questions. I think the biggest thing that has spurred me back is that I still seem to have a passion to want to serve. And it's been a long time, but I served almost 5 years on city council and as almost a full term as mayor. And I left with feelings of some emptiness for a while. And I want to have that opportunity. So to come back and impact Crestville again.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. Councilor Shuck, if you'll go next.
Thank you for your application. Is that working?
Yeah, now do you have the questions here? Because I noticed Alonzo's wasn't actually the first one on the list. This is what came in the packet here.
Okay,
Right
thank
there.
you. That's a much shorter question. Thank you for your application. As a former commissioner of the Planning Commission, I welcome you to this opportunity. It's amazing to hear what's going on throughout the city, and I think you will really enjoy it. Do you have any relevant experience?
Well, I think my time of 5 years on city council, serving on many different committees and commissions and working on master plans and strategic plans and economic development plans and transportation system plans, organizing an emergency preparedness fair for the first time in Crestville, has given me kind of a water rate advisory committee, another one too, has given me kind of a inside feel of how things work. And I think all of which will play a key role in some of my decision making and abilities.
Thank you.
All right, Tammy, you're next. Tammy. Shelley, you're next. Shelley.
Okay, it's on. I couldn't see the red button. Thank you for being here tonight. It's wonderful to see you again.
Seen you too, Sean.
Are there any special projects that you're excited about?
Nothing really specific. I want to meld into the commission to be a part of what is being done in Crestville. I don't have any poignant things that I have any, dedicated thoughts about other than economic development, certainly, and the future of affordable housing. Those are probably the two that are going to be the most impactful for Crestville moving forward.
Okay. And we're going to skip Council President Proctor because you've been through this process before. But Councilor Osborne, you have not. So we're going to have you ask our fourth and final question.
Is there anything else you'd like us to know about your interest in this position?
I think probably the biggest thing is just, again, like I described in my first question, is I find myself still wanting to serve. That's probably the biggest. So I don't know what else to say beyond that. I really don't. I find myself in somewhat of a quandary because I didn't expect this. And it's still there.
Okay, thank you, Richard. You may be seated, because we actually need to wait just a little bit till we get into the formal council meeting to make the appointments. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the special meeting and reconvene the regular council meeting as soon as Roberta gives me the go-ahead.
Actually, we're gonna go for the next meeting. We're gonna start all over again. If you don't want to. Okay. There you go.
Okay, we're going to start again. And now we are on to the regular city council meeting. We've already had the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Roberta, did we have anyone turn in a speaker's request?
I do.
Thank you. All right, we have one person who signed up to speak tonight, and that is Bethany Scoville. Bethany, if you would come forward here to the podium, the lectern.
You said it was okay if I remove my mask?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I know I only have 3 minutes to talk. Is there a timer?
Right here.
Oh, okay. I'm not used to this. My name is Bethany Scoville. I'm actually new to your community. I just moved here in August when I got married to my lovely husband, Nathan Scoville. Really what I wanted to do tonight is extend a personal invitation to a special event that's happening in a month's time. Several community groups have gotten together, and we've invited a gentleman, sorry, I'm getting nervous, a gentleman by the name of Chad Hymas to come speak to Cresswell. If you don't know who Chad Hymas is, he is a motivational speaker, nationally and I believe even globally renowned. He's spoken on Dr. Phil and Ellen and Oprah. This man, about 20 years ago, was an elk farmer and involved in an unfortunate accident where a large bale of hay, about 1 ton, fell directly on his head, and he became a quadriplegic. Since that time, he has really regained a passion for life and wanting to motivate and encourage people. And specifically, he's coming to Cresswell to speak and encourage us and really invest in us. And there is going to be a free community speaking engagement where he's going to be coming to Cresswell High School on March 16th at 6:30. And I really just wanted to extend the invitation to all of you and the community, and if you would help kind of spread that word, that would be wonderful. I know we've all been through a lot over the last couple of years, and I think this would be a really uplifting time for us to come together in a way that will challenge and encourage us. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bethany. You did just fine. Okay, and with that, we move on to the mayor's report, and the first item is the state of the city address. So I'm going to come over to the lectern myself. We don't have a microphone out here, do we?
It's built in, is my understanding. Is that
Okay.
correct, Jim?
Built in. Okay. If you enjoy watching sports on television, you're familiar with the highlights. They show them during halftime, the plays that set the tone for the first half of the game. The catches, the shots, the steals, the assists that put one team in the lead. And then at the end of the game, there are more highlights, usually followed up with the play of the game, the one that turned all the momentum around towards the team that eventually won. This evening, I'd like to talk to you about highlights and hopes here in Cresswell. Last year, in November, I was appointed to the city council as the mayor, and thank you for giving me that privilege very much. It's an honor. But I want to talk tonight about highlights and hopes for the city. And there were many. Highlight number 1, awards. In 2021, the City of Crestwell received the 5th consecutive Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This award recognizes excellence in preparing a city budget that functions as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communication tool. Also last year, the city audit was completed on time and received a clean opinion from the auditors. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because every November, we pay property taxes, and a portion of those taxes go to the City of Crestwell. It's interesting, I looked on my property tax bill last year to see what portion of my property taxes went to the City of Crestwell, and it was about 18%. So we want to know that our money is being managed well, and these awards indicate that our budget's being prepared very well, we're recognized that way, and our audits are being done on time and receiving a clean opinion. 2 other awards we received last year had to do with our water system and our trees. Our water system went through a survey with the Oregon Health Authority and received an outstanding performance certification. And for the 11th consecutive year, Crestwell was named as a Tree City USA. Why is that important? Well, obviously our water is really, really important, and the service that we have to get it into our homes is important, but our trees are important for many, many, many reasons, and I'm thrilled that we have some members of our Parks and Tree Board here tonight that would say amen to that. Trees are important, aren't they? So those are important awards. Second highlight in Crestwell is parks. As I was out for a walk last year one day, I stumbled across Grasslands Park, located at the corner of Grassland Street and Niblock Lane. And there I found an interesting layout that upon inquiry I learned was called a bicycle pump track. My wife asked me, what's a bicycle pump track? And I said, look it up, you're good at that. It's quite amazing, and it looks like a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should go and check it out. On another walk in Garden Lake Park, I came across a disc golf course that I hadn't seen before. So highlight number 2 for me last year is new recreational opportunities for people in Crestwell. Highlight number 3 is buildings. In 2021, we watched as the 76 gas and convenience store went up, and I think that was a lot of fun for all of us, wasn't it? Watching that progress bit by bit. But we all know that buildings like that don't happen overnight. It took years, I'm sure, of planning and hard work by the owner, by the builders, and by our city staff to make that a reality. Well, all around Crestwell, if you look, buildings are going up. There are new townhouses going up on Holbrook Lane, new shops being constructed on Highway 99 just south of F Street, new homes along North 5th Street. Wise Woman Herbals is planning an expansion east of I-5, and Inspired Healthcare Assisted Living and Memory Care Facility is looking to build near Emerald Parkway. Last year, the city also partnered with St. Vincent de Paul to assist income-qualified residents with home repair needs through the Rural Housing Program, and the city began work on a housing needs analysis. So as you can tell, lots of building going on, lots of building completed, more to come. That's highlight number 3 for me. Number 4 is EOC. What does EOC stand for? Some of you know. Emergency Operations Center. Knowing that a natural disaster could happen at any time, Crestwell has to be prepared. Our Emergency Operations Center will happen at the airport. And right now there are 2 major tasks involved in that. 1 is equipping the center, and number 2 is installing an on-site wastewater system. Last year, 3 emergency generators were purchased along with additional necessary equipment to operate the center. The engineering is nearly complete on the wastewater system, and we are anticipating installation in 2022. So those are big highlights. Highlight number 5 is efficacy. Now, I'm indebted to City Manager Amberg and her staff because I was only mayor 2 months last year. So I said, help, I need a lot of input on what are the highlights. So Michelle gave me a list, and as I looked through the list, near the bottom there was this item: maintained efficacy through several staffing changes. Well, I had to look up the word efficacy. It comes from a Latin word that means capable of fulfilling a function. And I pondered what it must have been like for our staff members for the last 2 years to fulfill their functions here in the city. And I imagine it was very, very challenging. At the heart of every good organization are the people who work there. And it's not any different in Cresswell. We don't have a large staff, but our staff are good people who are very diligent in their desire to serve Cresswell. Partway through 2021, our administrative assistant, Jennifer Gardieppe, died very suddenly. If you had gone into City Hall, you would have been greeted first by Jennifer at the front desk. She sat behind the desk, answered phone calls, welcomed visitors, did all kinds of odd jobs, and even helped out with lost dogs when needed. She was a bright and cheery person, and when we lost her so suddenly, it was very difficult. At the end of 2021, our utility building clerk, Michelle Furr, retired, having served the city for many, many years. We were sad to see her go, but we shared her joy at the completion of a job very well done. The COVID virus brought the end of in-person city council meetings and the closure of City Hall for a period of time. Staff had to figure out how to do virtual council and committee meetings in the interim period. There were numerous safety protocols that had to be followed. There was turnover in the council as the mayor resigned, followed by 2 councilors. And yet, through these 2 years of great turmoil, our city staff kept on serving the people of Cresswell. They maintained efficacy. And for that, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all the people who work outside, Cliff, your staff, all year long, mowing the parks, cleaning the restrooms, fixing broken water pipes, repairing potholes, clearing the streets of snow, making sure the sewer works and the water flows, and on and on and on goes the list of the people who are outside all year long, whatever the temperatures bring. Thank you to all the people who work inside, at the airport, at City Hall, the water and sewer treatment plants, the police station. Thank you for planning, Maddie, how buildings should be built, for preparing monthly utility bills, for keeping records, Roberta, of our many, 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 many meetings, for following up on COVID complaints, making sure, Jim, that the money is well managed and wisely spent, for Sergeant Denham, making sure all those calls are followed up on. Tonight we're going to get a report on how many calls there were this last month, for preparing for our recovery just in case there is a natural disaster, for writing out agreements so that we can have community celebrations, and Michelle for managing all the staff and all the details that it takes to keep the city going. Thank you. Well, those are some of the highlights. So now I want to talk about some of the hopes for 2022. I hope that by the middle of the year, we have a new 5-year strategic plan for the city. We've hired a consultant, and we're set to meet with them in 2 weeks. We're looking for Cresswellians who would like to provide input on the plan. So if you are interested, or you know someone who might like to provide input, please let Council President Prachu or Manager Amber or myself know by tomorrow, or Wednesday at the latest. We're trying to pull together a list of people that would like to participate in that process. So I hope that by the middle of the year we have a brand new 5-year strategic plan. I hope that by the end of the year we have a plan for maintaining roads in Cresswell. As I drove down here tonight, down South 2nd Street, I said to my wife, a lot of our roads are in bad repair. And it's going to take a long time to maintain them, to get them up to where they should be. We still have many roads in Cresswell without sidewalks. Sidewalks that are needed for our young and our old, to get to school, to get groceries, just to get out like I do and walk. And so at the March council meeting next month, I will be appointing a roads ad hoc committee to address the long-term needs and to look for funding sources. Because while it's going to take a long time to do it, it's also going to take a lot of money. No one else is going to take care of the roads in Cresswell. They're our roads. It's up to us. So if you're interested in serving on the committee, or you know someone who might, please let me know. I hope that in 2022, the City Council and all of our committees will get a lot of work done. In 2021, there were vacancies on the council and in our committees. And you know, it's hard to get work done when you just don't have the people. Tonight, you see before you a full council once again. Council committees have received their charges and they are off and running. Tonight, the final vacancies on our budget Planning and Parks Committee will soon be filled. We are blessed to have so many people who are willing to serve. And I look forward to a year in which we get a lot of work done. I hope that this year we have robust, well-attended community events that can be enjoyed by every person. The Chamber of Commerce has entered into a 3-year agreement with the city to provide community events and promote tourism activities. First up is the citywide garage sale in May, followed by the July 4th celebration, and then the Winter Lights Festival in December. Our community celebrations have always been for everybody. For the high school marching band and the church floats, for people on horseback and people in classic cars, for fire trucks and farm combines, for politicians of every stripe and clowns in striped costumes. I look forward to great community events in 2022. Are my hopes just pie in the sky, or do I have a reason for the hope that is within me? As I look around this room, I see a reason for hope. I see before me dedicated people who want to do good for their community. I admire my fellow counselors for their willingness to put in a lot of hours and serve their community, each one of you. I admire my fellow citizens who have stepped forward and are willing to serve and fill up our committees. I'm grateful for the talented people that Manager Amber has assembled to do the daily tasks that make our city go. As I walk through Cresswell and interact with people, as I step into businesses and visit with owners, and as I engage in conversation with people who call Cresswell home, I see a reason for hope. There are so many good people in this town. That's not to say we don't have our share of troubles. Our welcome sign says, Cresswell, the friendly city. Sometimes we haven't been as friendly as we should. Sometimes we haven't given a warm greeting to every person who comes to town. Sometimes we need to apologize and work harder at loving our neighbor and treating others the way that we want ourselves and our children to be treated. I have hope because I believe that we want to be better people. We want to learn from one another. And we want to live up to our motto that says, we are Cresswell, the friendly city. You are invited to join me, the City Council, our many committees, and our amazing staff on the journey of 2022. A year from now, we'll have new highlights to report and new hopes to pursue. Until then, let's get back to work. Thank you. All right, now we move on to item B on the mayor's report, which is the appointment of committees. So let me grab my, where did I put that? Right here. We are appointing tonight a new member to the Budget Committee. We have one applicant, and that is Mr. David Nicholson. I believe council members, you've seen the application. We are appointing one member to the Planning Commission. We have one applicant, Mr. Richard Zettervall. And we are appointing one member to the Park and Tree Advisory Board. And we have one applicant who is with us tonight, Mr. Stuart Samuels. So council members, at this time I would like to appoint all three of these individuals, David Nicholson to the Budget Committee, Richard Zettervall to the Planning Commission, and Stuart Samuels to the Park and Tree Advisory Board. So do I have council consent for these appointments? Okay. Congratulations. Thank you for coming tonight, Stuart and Richard. We are excited to have you both on board, and I don't believe David's here tonight. But thank you to all, and I'm so thrilled that we now have a full council and all of our committee vacancies are filled. Yay! All right, we move on to court evaluation signups, and I'm going to turn this over to the chair of our administration committee, Councilor Castillo.
Yes, thanks again, Mayor. Counselors, new counselors, you may or may not know that is one of our duties, honors, and privileges to conduct the annual performance evaluations of our city manager, city attorney, and our city municipal judge. And part of the process for the municipal judge is to attend a court session. So at the end of the meeting, you can meet up with me real quick and sign up for a date to attend, or be prepared to do so at the February work session. And then we'll also go into a little more depth in how that whole process works.
All right, thank you, Councilor Castillo. Next, we move on to correspondence. Council members, do you have any comments about the correspondence that was in our packet? All right, if not, then we will move on to consent calendar. The consent calendar, all items are considered routine and are enacted by a single motion unless a council member wishes to pull an item and consider it separately. Councilors, is there anything that needs to be pulled from the consent calendar? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented. Councilor Inman.
Thank you. So I move to, oh my gosh, I just had a moment there. I move to accept the content of calendar as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the consent calendar as presented. Is there a second? Councilor Clark. Councilor Clark seconds the motion?
Yes, I do.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we move on to the administrative report. Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. You have in your packet all of the bills that were paid this last month. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have on those bills. Doesn't look like there's any questions.
Manager Amber, I have one question, not so much a question. I see on the second set in, this is under January 19. I'm just curious, the 16,000 to City of Cottage Grove. I think I know what it is, but that caught my attention.
That would be for our building inspection services.
So we contract with Cottage Grove to do all the building inspections?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had there.
And the next thing on here is the Lane County Sheriff's calls for service reports, and we have Sergeant Denham here to answer your questions.
All right, Councilor.
So I believe that you wanted a little bit of detail on what the actual charts that you're looking at mean for the new counselors and anybody who has ever been confused by our chart. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you look at the charts that we've given you, the first one is the one that says is all pretty and colorful. That basically breaks down as the best, most simple breakdown that we have been able to develop that we can manage. I mean, I could break down to every little type of call that we have, but this form would be, 15 pages long. So we're able to group all of the different types of things that we respond to within the city into some basic details of property crimes, person crimes, public order, individual welfare, vehicles, offenses against state and civil. And then we have a bottom one. The council has always wanted to kind of be up to date on what Measure 11 crimes are reported within the city. Those don't count into the total number of cases or calls that we do. We just identify any of the calls that we're tracking if they do qualify as a Measure 11 crime, which is usually going to be a person type crime. But if you look at those, we only track calls that somebody calls in for or that we respond to that results in some type of action. So when somebody calls in a burglary or a theft or criminal trespass on those property crimes, anything on property crimes that basically has to do with tangible, people's tangible property, money, possessions, anything like that is gonna fall under a property crime. So it's a big gamut, and that's why we always see that that's the most amount of calls that we get, and that's the most number of case numbers. People don't call in don't call in a theft unless they're missing something, which is always gonna generate a case number for the most part. Under person crimes, that's pretty much anything that has to do with neglect of elders or children, sex crimes, assaults, violations of a restraining order, anything that involves a person actually being a victim of something personally, some type of attack against themselves, that's going to fall under a person crime. Public order is kind of the catch-all for everything. It's everything from fireworks to barking dogs to disorderly conduct, disorderly juveniles, suspicious people. Every time somebody knocks on our door downstairs or calls in and says, hey, I just want to talk to a deputy, we track those calls, but it all kind of falls under the public order catch-all. So what we don't track in there is stuff that's deputy initiated. So if we go out and we want to talk to somebody, I don't count that as a call for service that's generated by the public. That's something that's self-generated by our deputies being proactive. Individual welfare is any time that we're looking at somebody calls in and says, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so for so long, and we're concerned about them. We go and check on those people. Or if we have somebody that's in mental crisis that we deal with, those fall under individual welfare. Suicidal people, any of those type of events, even death investigations kind of fall under individual welfare. Just don't really have anywhere else to put them. Unless it's, something suspicious, then it would fall under maybe a person crime. Vehicles, that's anything from crashes to traffic hazards to parking issues to, what we do track is if one of our deputies stops somebody and they're driving while suspended at a criminal level, such as a misdemeanor or a felony, that generates a case number. So we track those as actual calls because there's case numbers attached to them, and they take quite a bit more time than just giving someone a traffic citation. That would also include DUIs, all of those types of calls that involve some type of vehicle. Offenses against state or anything, drug possession, anything that's called in, if we're helping another agency, warrant arrests, a lot of that gets tracked. So anytime deputies have downtime and they're looking for people or they're out checking things out and they do a traffic stop and the person ends up being wanted, that falls under that state process. And then civil, we get a lot of subpoenas, restraining orders, stalking orders, eviction notices, things like that. Anytime we're out serving those take up deputy time, and they're not a proactive, out on patrol type of thing. They're something that we have to, by law, go and do. So we track those. You'll never hardly see a case number attached to that unless there's a restraining order that gets served and it has a specific case number attached to it, just because they don't really get those. And then you'll see a total number there every time that I do it of those numbers of calls I go through, and I sometimes we'll get somebody that will call on something 2 or 3 times, or an event that will happen. If 4 people call in about fireworks, I'm going to track that as one event. I'm not going to call it each individual person is calling. So out of those 100, so take for example this month where you see 169 calls for service, I actually have, when I do the printout for the entire month, it's actually 275 calls or entries. So those include traffic stops and patrol checks that deputies are doing when they're out and about, or multiple times somebody calls in about a certain thing, or if we go to somebody's house and knock on the door and they're not there, then we regenerate that that incident in CAD the next time we go to contact them. So we don't count that as triple or 4 times that the deputy gets called to do something. So hopefully that explains that particular chart. The other chart that we started doing a few years ago was kind of doing a monthly tracking so that you can all see, kind of track the trends that go on between different times throughout the year. And I'm not, was the last year's attached to that also? So you have last year's to kind of do a comparison for what you're seeing in January. And that will continue to go throughout the year so you can see what the trends. Obviously, in certain times such as summertime, certain things go up because more people are out and about. We've got more sunlight. It's warmer at night. People can get out and do things. You'll see different things such as thefts and other things go up as opposed to the individual welfare is high during the winter months and the Christmas season and things because people are suicidal, people are having mental crisis, and that just goes kind of with the flow of this last year has been very much so throughout the entire year with COVID and people being cooped up in house to where there's a lot of mental strain going on for a lot of people. So other than that, I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Councilor Brochu.
Good evening and welcome back from your time away. And I just wanted to ask a quick question with looking like possible restrictions, lifting and stuff like that. Will you be able to start allowing ride-alongs again?
We should, yes.
And that's something I would strongly encourage everybody here to try at least once. You will definitely come away learning something and have a higher appreciation for our deputies. And then my usual question, which is just to ask about any changes in our homeless or transient population. So.
No change at all that I know of. That none of my deputies have told me that we've had any change. If anything, we're probably a little less activity right now. Some of our unhoused have actually been doing really well and gotten somewhat sober and are doing good. I haven't gotten a recent report on Sam after his vehicle caught fire, but we were trying to work with him to help get him some assistance. But other than that, things have been very good compared to a lot of other places here in Crestwell.
Thank you.
All right, any other councilor questions? Thank you very much, Sergeant Denham.
Thank you. The next report is the city attorney's report. You can see the city attorney was busy working with various departments over the last month. The next report is the code enforcement report. You can see the violations there and the amount of time that is spent on each type.
So Manager Amberg, I noticed all the pictures of the same thing. Can you briefly give an explanation of why that's a code violation?
Yes, the basketball hoops continue to be a problem. They are not supposed to be on sidewalks because they hamper individuals with mobility issues from getting where they need to go. So these are actual violations of that code, portion of our code. You can see it's pretty prevalent throughout our community that people put their basketball hoops in the sidewalks. And so Jerry spends a lot of time going around and telling people that they need to remove them out of the sidewalk when they're not using them.
So is that a fine or is that just a warning to please remove them, and do people usually comply?
It depends. It can be a warning or it can be a fine depending on how many times Jerry has to go out.
Okay, thank you.
Then you have the building permit recap report. You can see that we're still holding pretty strongly on our building permits.
I have a question.
Councilor Brochu.
Are you able to speak to the special events permit? We don't see too many of those, and I noticed that there was one.
Special permit, I'm sorry.
Special event permits, in January that we had one. I was like, oh,
That's
what was
for
it?
the parade, the 4th of July parade.
Oh, okay, so that application for the 4th of July. Okay, great.
And then you have finally a quick report. The city council had requested a quick report to be given on the airport leases. We had we had a concerned person come to the city council to say that he is interested in leasing a space, and the city council asked for a report on that, and that's what that airport report is. And that concludes the administrative report.
Okay, very good. All right, so we are up to item number 6, which is council actions. And we first of all have a liquor license application, item 6A. So is that Roberta?
This liquor license is the same one that came before you late last year. They're opening a little cafe-like thing down in the old motel by AM/PM, or I guess it's by TJ's. And they're going to have a little small deli-type restaurant where customers can order food there, and TJ's will fill the order and deliver it over to the motel, or Connor's Corner, whatever they're gonna call it. And they like a liquor application.
Okay, so this was the item that we had a couple months back, right?
Correct.
And we had some concerns expressed. Can you give us an update on how those concerns were resolved?
Yes, Mayor. There were concerns because they were asking for a liquor license for a location that does not have a certificate of occupancy and will not have a certificate of occupancy even after tonight. However, with discussing it with the business owner, they are aware that they will not have a certificate of occupancy. So even though they will have a liquor license, they will not be able to operate the restaurant until they have a certificate of occupancy. And we don't know when the building will be sufficiently meeting our codes and our building permit requirements for that to actually open and run as a business. And they're aware of this, and they still wanted to go ahead with the liquor license application.
Okay. Council members, do you have any questions about this item? Councilor Inman?
Yes, thank you. So I don't recall if we had discussed this last time, if the occupancy is usually done first and then the liquor?
Normally, you wouldn't, in my experience, you wouldn't want a liquor license application until you could actually open the business. And in this instance, they're applying for the liquor license application knowing that they cannot operate a business out of that location at this time.
Any further questions? Councilor Castillo?
Yes, Manager Amber, in your discussions, did it come up as to why, what is the hurry, what is the rush?
They would like to, they actually are renting the location from the building owner, even though they cannot have a certificate of occupancy right now. They are concerned that a different business might go in there that might be competitive. And so they're just locking in their position there that they can be the only ones that will be going into that location because they don't want competition right across the street.
So by locking that in, does that ensure that another liquor license cannot be obtained then?
I'm not sure what this is part of the problem, is we don't know how that building is going to be used. It's to be used residentially on the upper floors and commercially on the bottom floors. And we don't know what the commercial spaces are going to be on the bottom floor, so I can't answer your question as to whether or not.
In my mind, if there is on the bottom floor a business that does want to have a liquor license, is there anything that would preclude us giving an additional liquor license to someone on the first floor?
Not necessarily.
Okay,
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
there's no reason next door neighbors in a business commercial strip particularly couldn't have liquor license one right next to each other.
You could have a business that's a bar, and you could have a business that serves alcohol right next door to it,
And then right next to that, a convenience store.
right?
Okay. Counselor Shuck.
My concern in the application is they have a little drawing of what the first floor would look like with a bar and tables and seatings and then a sidewalk cafe. And if the building doesn't get occupancy, Michelle, could they still open a sidewalk cafe there as they've indicated?
No,
Okay, thank you.
we would not allow that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Counselor Clark?
Manager Amberg, is there any liability for the city if the permits are issued out of traditional order? So if there is a liquor application that is approved before a certificate of occupancy, is there any concern with that?
We haven't found any, and there's none to my knowledge.
Okay, so this is a different kind of situation, but we need to make a decision on it. We have an application before us. Is there any final discussions? Counselor Castillo?
One last question. Does this vote have to be unanimous?
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Inman?
Yes, I have one more question. So is this situation the same as the last time? Has anything changed?
Nothing has changed,
Okay,
except that I spoke with the business owner and made sure that they were aware that they would not be able to operate their business until such a time as a certificate of occupancy was issued for the location.
okay, thank you.
All right. Council, I am entertaining a motion on item 6A, the liquor license application. Counselor Shuck?
I move that the city council deny the limited on-premises liquor sales license for Finishing Strong, Inc., DBA Connors Corners, as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Counselor Castillo. All right, any further discussion? All right, Counselor Pratchett.
I guess I would just want a little clarification, maybe from others, as to why we would deny the license. I don't see anything that would keep us from doing that other than the occupancy, but if there's anything, if that's okay, then it doesn't seem like we would have any reasons not to do it. So that's kind of maybe my concern.
Counselor Shuck?
I'll answer that with my opinion. The units above in this mixed-use facility will be housing. And some of them are studio apartments, some of them are two-bedroom. And the proposal that the Planning Commission saw was for the former swimming pool to be a playground for children. And I personally, the other businesses nearby, there's not It's not an attractive nuisance for kids to go into AM, PM and be in the environment of the presence of liquor. The sidewalk cafe is a great concern to me, and where exactly would that be? Is that like TJ's outside areas, no minors in there? They do a good job, in my personal opinion, of keeping minors out of that, or taking care of their patrons, and I would like to just see what the finished product looks like before a liquor license is issued, and that's my personal opinion.
Any other counselors? Counselor Norma Jean? Counselor Osborne?
If we say no now, is that the end for them? Can they put an application in later if we say no now?
I don't know. They paid their $100 fee, and I would have to go back and read. I don't know that it's refundable. And if they reapplied, they'd have to pay another $100 fee. But can I add something?
Yes, you may.
I think, if I remember correctly, Bon Me was in the same position. We, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we issued that liquor license like close to, 8 months before they ever opened.
Manager Amber?
The difference being there that they had a certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
This does not have a certificate of occupancy, so, but it's their own decision, it's their own business model, it's their own care for their own business as to whether or not they want to waste their time and money on getting rent and a certificate or a liquor license when they can't operate there. It is unusual, but it's not criminal in any way or any sort of, it doesn't break any codes or anything like that.
Counselor Check?
I do just want to add that I'm satisfied with Sergeant Denham's background check and not questioning the integrity of the applicant. Simply would like to see the building use completely solidified.
Any other counselors wishing to speak? I'll go ahead and echo what Kevin said here, in that the application itself is no cause for concern, and our sergeant recommends approval, and our staff recommends approval. And while it's odd, the timing of it, it's not a violation in any way, just odd. So I don't really think that we have a basis for denying it, is again my thought. Right, Councilor Inman?
So did they indicate at all when they were looking for their occupancy, their certification?
It was my understanding that they thought it would be soon. However, in speaking with staff, I don't get the impression that it will be soon, because there are several important aspects of the development that were brought up by Councilor Shuck that need to be addressed prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued.
Okay, there's no other questions? Councilor Castillo?
I would just comment that I I understand that there's clearly nothing wrong with it, but it just does seem outside the normal order of things. And it would be nice to, get some clarification on exactly what is gonna go on there. And it doesn't seem like it's going to, one way or another, I guess maybe outside of them losing their $100, that it's going to solidify their position there as far as obtaining a liquor license. So, for that, I don't think we should, but, that's why we're here tonight.
Councilor Prachu.
I guess I would add on that my thoughts are if we were waiting to solidify what's going to happen in the building and then take action, what would happen if later on things change and then somebody else wants to do something and the needs in the buildings configure and change? I don't think that would really change our course of action on what we would do in the future. And so I don't see how it would change our course of action now. The only thing that is weird is what we're talking about is just the order thing. I think that's probably the thing that's throwing most of us. But I do understand Councilor Shuck's points that we kind of want to pay attention, at least a little bit to what's really happening there. That sidewalk thing, that does raise, some questions too. So I understand, but I don't think that in my mind, it would change it wouldn't be a factor for me anyway.
Okay, are we ready to vote? We have a motion on the floor and a second to deny the application. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. All right, so now I'm entertaining a motion to approve the liquor license application. Is there a motion on the floor? I move to approve the liquor license application for Limited On-Premises Finished Strong Incorporated. Is there a second on the floor? Councilor Osborne seconds the motion. Any further discussion? All right, let us proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise their hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes with Councilor Castillo and Shuck voting in opposition. Okay, thank you, Council. We move on to item number B, which is Resolution 2022-02, establishing council rules. Manager Amber.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council has spent quite some time reviewing its operating rules and has made a few changes to the governing rules. And now is time to approve those changes if the council so desires. That's what's before you tonight.
All right, City Council, you've had a chance to look these over several times, I believe, and see the revision. Is there any discussion of the proposed new governing rules? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion. Councilor Inman?
Yes, I move that the City Council adopt Resolution 2022-02, establishing council rules and rescinding Resolution number 2019-04 and Resolution number 2019-22.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Prachu seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6C, Resolution 2022-03, clarifying the authority of the city manager as the FEMA applicant agent. Looks like this is Maddie Phillips.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I have a resolution here before you tonight, Resolution 2022-03, that intends to clarify the authority of the city of the city manager as our FEMA applicant agent. You'll see in the agenda item summary that the city staff have prepared several applications to FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, in the hopes of achieving some funding for hazard mitigation projects related to our water system. Those are briefly described with their titles. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you have regarding those. However, the motion that I'm requesting of you this evening is to declare Michelle Amberg our applicant agent, which enables her to execute documents and receive funding on the city's behalf.
Okay, council members, do you have any questions for Maddie? We're making it easy on you tonight. Okay. Council, any further discussion? Any last questions? I'm entertaining a motion on item 6C. Thank you, Maddie. Councilor Clark.
I move that the City Council adopt resolution number 2022-03, a resolution clarifying the authority of the city manager as the FEMA applicant agent for the city of Crestwell.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Osborne. All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Maddie. That brings us to the back page, which says that there is an executive session tonight, and the city council will now meet an executive session. The executive session is pursuant to ORS 192.006, item 2H, to consult with legal counsel regarding the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are welcome to wait here in the council chambers, as the meeting will be reconvened at the end of the executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions may be made in executive session. So at this time, we are recessing the regular meeting, noting that it is now 8:03 p.m. and we will move into executive session. Council members, if you need to use the restroom, go now or forever hold your peace. That's what they say, right? Maybe I made an announcement for me. I'll be right in, okay? Tell everybody I'm coming on. I'll be right in there.
You're gonna hold down the fort, Dawn?
All right. It feels like it, though.
I don't know what I said. That's okay. Staff. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Don.
Okay, I'm turning the mics back on. And the cameras are back on.
We are reconvening the regular meeting of the council. We move on to item number 8, which is upcoming meetings and events. And I want to remind the council that at our council work session in 2 weeks, it could be a long work session, like 2.5 to 3 hours, because we have all of our committees bringing reports. And we're going to be having the goals from Michelle for the year. And then we're going to end with our strategic planner coming to kick that off with us. That'll be the last portion, but that's going to be about an hour long. So please feel free to bring your drinks, bring your goodies. We'll take whatever breaks we need. Get a good night of sleep the night before. And I'll see you on the 28th. And with that, we are adjourned.
I love how it does that. It has the main and then has a small box and then a Zoom.
So get a good night's sleep.
Alonzo, do you have something for us?
I have a trip.
Oh,
and I get in the night
gosh.
at 11.
Yes, I do.
Oh, gosh. I will not be getting a good night's sleep.
Okay,
I will
I
try to
haven't wrote
go.
myself a note. I am ready.
Fourth is, if you don't know, it's the second Wednesday of every month. So,
Oh, okay. This is a sign up for,
and it starts at 7 o'clock and it's here. And I
It's March
don't-
9th?
And I will bring this again at the February 2 work session.